And real quick, let's just take you through the various parameters involved in auto-tune for guitar. We want to start with solid tune. Solid tune compensates for finger pressure and guitar intonation variance. And we use this iPad MIDI controller to disable it because it's always on. It's always on by default for reasons which you'll hear. I'm going to play a little 10th fret chord here and engage solid tune, and let's listen for the difference. Ready? Once more. Very subtle, but you can hear how solid tune is pulling those strings into tune. Another place we can hear that is the same chord in the open position here. Once more.
Now, what if your guitar is out of tune? Would it be more dramatic, the effect, or would it be like, wouldn't even?
Well, and that's kind of the point, because solid tune compensates for the fact that guitars are not precision instruments. They are actually always a little out of tune with themselves. So solid tune actually brings a guitar into tune to a level that is not commonly possible. And between solid tune and string tune, we can still do bends and vibrato. The guitar stays in tune. So it's really awesome because a guitar player can just concentrate on playing guitar and not have to worry about being in tune so much. So that's solid tune and string tune. And then we can move on to our other parameters that you can see here on the iPad MIDI controller. They can be combined in any way that you can imagine, but let's go through them one at a time just for simplicity's sake. Initially we have our guitar models, and these are kind of named for different pickups. This first is the modern humbucker. That's our default pickup model. And you can switch directly from that to the California single coil, which is kind of modeled on a Stratocaster. And each one of these pickup model, these guitar models, can be affected by this pickup switch on the guitar, which is wired through the DSP and actually gives us different tones of each one of these guitar models. And we have an acoustic guitar model as well. Which also is affected by the pickup switch, giving it different EQ profiles. And we even have a Nashville single coil, which is kind of similar to a Telecaster. And the next thing is alternative tunings. From standard tuning, we can go straight to drop D. And the volume. And open E. And even a bass and guitar split. All kinds of things you can do with alternative tunings, with auto-tune for guitar. And then moving on to string doubling. String doubling is made possible because we have 2 channels per string. We can create sounds like this 12-string model here. Or the best sounding polyphonic octaver in the industry. And even play in fifths. And finally we have the Antares.
Yeah, too much, you'll be drinking fists.
Exactly.
We have the Antares Auto-Tune for Guitar Virtual Capo, which allows us to transpose the guitar's tuning up an entire octave 1/2 step at a time, or down an entire octave 1/2 step at a time, giving you tremendous versatility, and this is pretty easy to illustrate with the iPad. And going down is just as easy. You can go way down, play kind of the more metal style. Or all the way down for a bass. So with all of these different sounds, we talked about combining them together earlier. Let's try that. Let's try an acoustic guitar with a 12-string tuning and drop D, 12-string doubling, drop D tuning at Capo -1. Nice big sound. So we want to save that as a preset. And to do that, we can go over to the iPad's Save and Load Preset screen. I'm going to go ahead and save this preset as preset number 2. And I want to point out that I've actually reserved preset 1 for our default sound. So now, we can use the load preset screen and go from preset 1 to preset 2. And the iPad is really great that way. It's great for saving and loading presets, for constructing your presets, getting around your parameters. Really handy tool. And now I could go into string fret control. Okay, cool,
Sure, yes.
great.
I mean, I have a pressing schedule to make.
Okay, cool. But you may not want to be tied to a device like the iPad Live. So Auto-Tune for guitar offers fret control. And fret control is the ability to get around all these parameters by playing notes on the guitar while holding down the volume control. So just to illustrate the preset function, I can load my preset number 1 by holding down the volume control and playing this first string. So now we're back at preset 1. I can hold down the volume control and load preset 2 by playing the first fret. Now we're back to preset number 2. And we'll get back to how to save presets using fret control after we go through the different parameters, because you can use fret control to access all of the same parameters that we just went through with the iPad.
What does holding down the volume control mean?
Holding down the volume control allows us to translate notes from the guitar into signals to the DSP.
But you're actually pressing on the knob, or you're...
Yeah.
The knob is depressible, and you depress the knob, and then the fretboard acts as an index of the 1 to 64 presets.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
Well,
Okay.
1 to 21.
One.
Yeah.
Well,
all
one.
the
Yeah,
other
that's
strings
64
actually give
frets.
you independent access to the other parameters.
Ah, wow.
So if
Each
I,
string has a function.
Wow. So that's a very interesting... I think that's the first use of a fretboard in that way that I've heard about.
yeah, it really makes for an intuitive process of control. And we can go, for example, this first string is responsible for guitar models. I can go from our standard modern humbucker to that first California single coil by playing that first fret. Or the acoustic guitar. And back to the open string for my default sound. For the A string, we have alternative tunings, and I can go from the standard tuning to drop D by playing the first fret, or open E minor by playing the 7th fret. And of course back to the default tuning by playing the open A string. The D string is for doubling, and we can play the first fret for that 12 string model, or the second fret for the octaver, and back to the open string to get to our default no doubling sound. Now the next two strings control the virtual capo, and this is a little more intuitive than the iPad because we can go ahead and play the fret on the G string, in this case to capo up, play the fret that we want to set the capo at. So I can hold down the volume control, play the 3rd fret of the G string, it's going to be a capo 3, or play the 5th fret for capo 5, and then play the open string to return to our standard tuning.
Right.
And then the B string, same thing. Drop tune a step and a half by playing the 3rd fret of the B string. Or all the way down 2.5 steps by playing the 5th fret. Now at this point I'm going to go ahead and add fifths to that sound and save this sound as a preset. Using the 1st string, in order to do that I'm going to play above the 21st fret while holding down the volume control. And that low-pitched beat tells me that the string is ready to store the preset. I'm going to go ahead and store it in position 3, which is correspondent to this 2nd fret. That high-pitched sound tells me the sound has been stored at that location. And now I can access each of my presets by using string control, fret control, and open string with the volume control held down. Takes me to the standard default sound, 1st fret, 12th string, and 2nd fret, the 5ths that we just stored.
Nice.
So you've got all of the functionality accessible through fret control, including saving and loading presets. And there are still more ways to access this information. We can use
one more.
We can use the
for an extra $1.25. Throw some brownies.
Exactly, 99 cents. So the encoders are another way, and these come with the Luthier kits. There are 1 and 2 encoder Luthier kits. The single encoder kit is just to access up to 13 presets, whereas the dual encoder kit comes with a function encoder and a data encoder. Function encoder basically is like selecting which string when it comes to controlling your parameter, whereas the data controls the subset of that string.
Okay.
So this first setting would be pickup models. The second would be tunings. The third would be doubling.
Okay.
And then the 4th, capo up. 5th, capo down. And the 6th position is preset access, with our first position of this encoder being default, the 2nd position, the 12th string, and the 3rd position, the 5th.
Sorry, how are you changing the functionality of that knob?
Well, so this knob is the data knob, and this is the function knob. This has 6 positions, kind of 1 for each string.
Right.
And we just ended up on the 6th position.
Which is the preset.
Yeah, and that's
position.
actually
Okay.
kind of equivalent to this first string.
Right.
And then we move the data knob to which preset.
Right.
So it's kind of the same system accessed in a slightly different way.
Right.
So you got the encoders, you got the iPad MIDI controller, fret control. You can have, obviously foot switches, MIDI foot switches, which can also be used to control this information. Antares is going to be coming out with their own dedicated foot switch, which is going to have this technology in it. You could use a keyboard controller. And one more thing that we want to demonstrate is the global settings. The global settings are really important because if you have all your presets all programmed and you're ready to do your show, and the singer shows up and is like, "Oh, my voice is sore, I gotta drop tune everything a whole step, or drop tune everything down." We can change a global setting, and that setting is going to be consistent through all of our presets. When we turn the guitar on and off, it's going to be there. It's global. So if I want to do this, drop tune a whole step. Now if I go through my presets, they'll all be a whole step.
Nice.
And if I want to, say, I go into a studio with an old piano or some instrument that's not quite to standard tuning, and I need to detune in a fine-tuning environment, I can do that with this slider. And we also have gain and tone offsets, gain being volume, and tone affecting the range of motion of the range of that the guitar's tone control can access. It's usually kind of small, so we can move this and get a different sound. And tap it 3 times to go back to our default. So that's global settings. And
you got them all restored back, because the next person we demo to is going to have perfect pitch, and it's like, wait a minute, that's flat.
Oh no, I tapped it 3 times.
Oh.
That's it.
restored
That's
back.
it. And the wiggle.
Yeah, the wiggle.
That's the yes.
The wiggle button.
But coincidentally, we chose the yes wiggle, but we could have equally chosen the no wiggle. Lucky thing, the yes one is very optimistic.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that pretty much is auto-tune for guitar. There's obviously a great deal of use for this. It's very convenient for the guitar player. You can concentrate on playing guitar. You can so many creative options. And it's kind of like having 25 guitars in one in a lot of ways. So, you know, well, you don't play guitar, but if you did, you'd want to play this one.
Don't worry, I'll show this to people who play guitar. There you go.
Cool.
There you go. Wait, I'll give you a pick now, a MIDI Designer pick. Huh?
Oh, sweet.
All right,
Sweet.
all right. Thanks a lot for the demo.
Oh, you're welcome.
Beautiful.
Thank you for listening.
Beautiful. There's a team. There's a team. There we are. All right.